hires us? Usually people who say, I'm ready for change. I'm ready to take this journey with you. I want an extraordinary coach. I don't want an average experience. I want an excellent experience.
Was there a transformational moment in your life when you had to change something?
It was like my first real love, my first real experience in the dating world. And suddenly at 35 years old, I found myself a single mom. How do you become a better listener?
And how do you ask great questions? Yeah.
I think being a listener is about seeking to understand instead of seeking to be understood. But let me ask you a question. When you approach women, how often do you get rejected? All the time?
Like 70% of the time. Hello, everybody. This is Be Yourself and Sergey, the podcast on expressing our true selves. Today, my guest is Kim Ades. She is president and the founder of the Frame of Mind Coaching. She's a coach herself. She helps coaches to deliver transformational experience using this journal-based coaching method. Kim, hello. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Oh, really? It's my pleasure. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this as well. We tried to do this earlier this year, but we didn't find the spot. And now finally we can talk. So Kim, right off the bat, maybe you can give a Twitter bio, short introduction of yourself, maybe more like an elevator pitch that you give, something of this kind.
A Twitter bio. Basically, my name is Kim Ades. I live in Toronto, Canada, and I run an executive coaching company called Frame of Mind Coaching. And we coach leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, and what we call the highly driven population. And I've been doing that for 20 years.
For 20 years.
Yeah, I have a team of coaches in Canada and the US. And there you go, Twitter pitch.
Wow. So you do have a team of coaches.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I learned that you follow some journal-based coaching method. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't follow. I created.
You created? Oh, my God.
Yes. I created a journal-based coaching. So as I said, I've been coaching for 20 years. And when I first began my coaching journey, I was very interested in how we get inside of our clients' heads, how we really take a closer look at how they think, how they operate, how they behave in different circumstances, how they build their relationships, how they react and respond to things, what are their priorities, their beliefs, their values. Like, how do we learn our clients? How do we learn about them? If we don't know them well, it's very hard to coach them. And so from the very beginning, I thought it would be interesting for me, to be able to read their journals, their private journals. And so how do I coach my clients is that we have a call every week. And in between every call, I ask them to journal in a private and secure online journaling platform that we created.
Wow.
And what happens is that at the beginning of the week, we give them a journaling question or a journaling prompt, and they start journaling. And every time they journal, every single day, the coach, let's say it's me, I read and respond to their journal every single day. And what I'm doing is I'm asking them questions. I'm getting to know them more and deeper, and really trying to understand how they see the world and how they operate in the world, because how they see the world will impact what they do and how they do it, and then ultimately the results they get. So if they're not happy with the results they get, we need to understand how they think, and how their thinking impacts the outcomes they are experiencing in their lives. So that's the way we coach, and that's the way we teach coaching. So we never coach without a journal. We never coach without knowing our clients deeply and intimately. And the process is extremely, extremely effective and like super high impact.
A few thoughts. First of all, This seems to be like pretty intimate process. Like it's if myself were sharing the data, and maybe like journaling is something that you do for yourself, right? And
historically.
So how do you, especially minding that you work with C-level people, how do you make them open up like that, almost reflect on their life, knowing that someone's watching?
Well, I ask questions. And so the questions enable the conversation to happen, enable them to, when I ask you a question, it makes you think, it makes you take a look at yourself. It makes you tell the story of your life. And what I'm really interested in is, what is your version of the story you are telling about your life? Because the version that you tell is the version you live, and that will profoundly impact how you experience everything. So I'm looking for their perspectives on everything. Whether it's real or not is secondary. It's real to them.
Quick one, guys. If you can help me to grow this channel by hitting the subscribe button, I would be really, 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 really thankful. I want to grow this channel to become international podcast where I invite not only Ukrainian guests, but guests from all around the world, so you can benefit. And in this way, we all become better as human beings. Thank you very much for supporting me, and enjoy the show further.
So you help them sometimes maybe fix the perception of the reality?
Not sometimes.
Always.
What we do is we help them think in ways that are aligned with their goals and their desires. Because what we find is that a lot of times people think in ways that clash with what they want, that take them away from their goals. They don't know they're doing that. It's unconscious. And when we find this inconsistency, this opposition, you could say, we say, look, here's what you want, but here's how you're thinking about it. They don't go together. Mm-hmm. We have a problem that we need to address. You have a set of beliefs, you have a set of perspectives that make it very, very difficult for you to live the life you want to live and achieve the goals you want to achieve and have the relationships you want to have. So your thinking doesn't match with your goals. And when that happens, we need to change one of two things, your thinking or your goals. Choose one.
It's almost, if I were your client, I would pay you to help me to reflect on my life. Yes. There's so many benefits to self-reflection, but yet not a lot of people like to write, for example, right? I know for myself that writing is a very powerful tool because you kind of put out all your thoughts there, then you read it, and that makes you reflect on your life once you read what you just wrote, right?
Well, you're right, but I just want to go back. You say people don't like to write, but people are writing all the time. People are writing emails, people are writing texts, people are writing all the time. And so it's the same concept. So when people tell me I don't like to write, I say to them, when you were little, you learned to write. It's something that's inherent. Like, it's just part of our DNA is to write. And you're writing all the time. So don't make this a big issue. Don't make this a big problem. Just continue the process.
I read on your site that you help high potential leaders. So leaders who got high potentials. It seems like you handpick your customers. Is there a process where you actually...
In a way, they handpick us, right? So we provide a very unusual service because it's so intense, right? Like,
it's
there
intense.
are no coach.
I
very
saw
intense.
10 weeks program, right?
Yeah, it's 10 weeks to begin with, but in those 10 weeks, you're in contact with your coach every single day.
That's
right?
Intense.
So who picks us? The people who really want to experience change, the people who really want to go on a journey where they learn about themselves and how they show up in life and how that way sometimes creates problems for them. So who hires us? The people who want a high touch experience, people who want a coach that is in the boat with them rowing, right? Every single day, every single minute. So it's a very, very high impact, high intensity, high, I don't know how else to use the words, but right. It's a very intimate experience. And so who hires us? Usually people who say, I'm ready for change. I'm ready to take this journey with you. I want an extraordinary coach. I don't want an average experience. I want an excellent experience. And so people find us because of the service we provide, because of the intensity, because of the frequency of contact, because of the attention and presence that we have with our clients, right? Like we don't just talk to them once a week or once every 2 weeks. We're there with them every single day, even on the weekends.
I have an assumption that your customers already reached sort of a ceiling in terms of their, not in terms of, but maybe in terms of the hierarchy. So the only enemy they have is themselves. It's not like they have so many circumstances that tie them up to, to a particular thing. That so when they say to you, we're ready for change, it means that no outside noise or no circumstances actually stand in the way of the change but themselves. Is that fair to say?
Well, so yes, they are highly driven and high achievers. And yes, have they reached a ceiling? No, they haven't reached a ceiling.
Do they have a lot of people above them? Because
not always, but do they feel a high level of stress due to outside circumstances? Yes.
Yes.
Do they feel a high sense of responsibility with people who depend on them and with their own performance? Yes. Do they feel a sense of dissatisfaction with where they're at? All the time. They always feel like they are never where they should be. They feel like they haven't achieved all they need to achieve. They feel like they have not maximized their potential in life. They feel like there's a lot more and they're only scratching the surface. They feel like there's a lot of sometimes friction between themselves and other people. And so, all of that often is perceived by them as outside circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So is it true that it's outside circumstances? No, but that's how they feel. That's what they bring to the experience. They might say, I'm in a business with my, family members and it's very stressful and tense. And that's the problem. It's them, right? Mm. They might say, like COVID really hit our business. It really affected things and we still haven't come back from it. And that's very stressful. And that's an outside circumstance. They might say, you know what? I'm doing well in business, but my child is really struggling. That's an outside circumstance. Right. So, they perceive their challenges to be very much outside circumstances.
But my thought here is that you can change how you think and how you internalize what's going on in your life.
You can't?
I mean, you can do this within a few weeks, let's say, right? But if you have a boss you can stand, or I don't know, you have problems in your personal life that sort of impacts how you perform at work, I'm not sure, with even if I had someone asking me good questions, that would help me to look different at the issue, but I can't control other people who influence how the course of my life, right? So
you're right. You can't control other people, but you have a high level of control over how you interact with other people,
powerful.
And how your interaction impacts how you feel about things. So you have many, many choices. Most people don't exercise all of their choices. Most people feel stuck and trapped, and they don't realize that they have choices. One is the choice of perception of how we interpret what's going on. The other is the choice of action, how we handle what's going on. And how we handle what's going on is very much dependent on how we perceive what's going on. And so what we do is we help people really think clearly about what they want and then make decisions about their interactions or their actions.
That's interesting that you said this. Like, there is distance between how you perceive it and what you actually do, right? Do they always coincide? Or there might be a friction, like you realize something, but yet there's something happened and you actually didn't do something that you were supposed to do, that you intended to do. You know what I'm asking?
Do people often not do what they intend to do all
Yes,
the time.
if I
All the time.
realize what I want, but I did do this because of X number of things, right?
Yes. So there are layers, right? So like, for example, let's just take something simple. Okay. Let's take something like weight loss.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say I realize I need to lose weight. So I have consciousness about it. And I also know that these are the things I need to do in order to lose weight. Okay. So there are things we need to do.
Yeah.
For example, perhaps eat less sugar, stop eating donuts, etc. Right? Like there are things we need to do in order to affect our weight, and we're conscious and we're aware of them, but we're still not doing them. Right? We see that all the time.
Yeah.
Why do people struggle? Because they have a set of unconscious beliefs that get in the way.
Oh, so you need to dig deep to get to these unconscious beliefs. Oh, that's tough job.
So that is my job. It's to understand how people see the world, even at an unconscious level, and how that impacts what they do and what they don't do, even though consciously they wish they would do something different. How many times do you see, let's say, a man who says, oh, I wish I had the courage to go talk to that woman.
Yeah.
She's really attractive. I'm really interested in her, but they don't take the action because something stops them.
You say that you even held with fears of this kind?
Of course, all of them. What is it that's stopping you from living the life you want to live? That's the question.
And
what's getting in the way?
I think what's really awesome about the safe space that you give in this closed platform is that these answers could be really frightening, even to sound up. Because you don't want to acknowledge that you're a coward, that you think that other men are better than me, right? So, but it seems like this realizing this is already a part of the solution.
Well, look, when you realize that that's how you think, and you also learn that your thinking is invented by you, is created by you. What you also learn is you can create a different line of thinking, that is in your control, that is in your power, and that often the thoughts we have are fictitious. We invent them, we create them.
And they're repetitive. They're repetitive.
I
hate it.
Right. and we have these thoughts, a lot of times we have these thoughts because we believe unconsciously that they protect us, that they're safer, right?
Survival mode, right?
Exactly. So it's safer for me not to talk to that attractive girl, because what if I get rejected and then I'll be hurt? And that would be hard for me to deal with. So instead, I will stay away. So it's a modality of self-protection, right? Yeah. So that's a piece of it too. How do we equip someone to handle difficult experiences? And in fact, that's what we have learned, is that people who are very, very high performers, people who are very successful, have a very high degree of emotional resilience. Wow. And what does that mean? It means that they are able to handle adversity with greater strength than others. And more specifically, when they experience a difficult time, some form of adversity, they experience the blow. We all do, right? They fall, but they get up faster. And then they do something.
Shame, guilt, all these great feelings.
They get up faster and they do something to leverage the negative experience, the adversity. They turn it into an advantage of sorts.
How do they do that?
They say, okay, not only what did I learn here, but how do I take this and turn it into something that I can use in the future? How do I apply it? How do I learn from it? How do I stick it under my arm and take it with me? Not in a negative sense, in a positive sense.
Just to wrap up this little subject of hitting on women, I don't have a mate. I'm single right now, and I haven't ever had problems approaching ladies. But so many men around me, especially now, when they see me doing this or they hear me telling about doing this, they always get so interested in asking me, how do you do that? And I always say, well, because if she rejects me, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. But now I understand that that's me saying this to me, and I don't explain them how do I actually, what is the inside talk that I have with myself. And inside talk is this, like if I get rejected by so many, like, I don't know, 5 girls, it's just gonna make me stronger. Every next girl, I won't feel as offended, right? So I kind of build resilience against rejection. And this is really good, not only in your love life, but also in business. Because you get rejected by leads, by investors, by job seekers. I get rejected all the time, Kim.
That's right.
This thing, being able to be totally fine with rejection, is so powerful for me that I took the lesson from personal life to professional. No.
So let's explore this a little bit, because it's interesting, right? So the conversation you have with yourself is, it's totally fine if I experience rejection, right?
Yeah, it still hurts, but I remind myself that
it hurts, but it doesn't kill me.
It's even good for me. I even make it like a good thing. It's like a good thing.
So let me ask you a question. When you approach women, how often do you get rejected? All the time?
Like 70% of the time.
Okay, so we have a 30% success rate, correct?
Yeah.
Not bad. Now let me ask you a question. Okay. Let me ask you a question. The 30% success rate, there's nobody in this group that's interesting to you that you stuck with? All you need is one, right?
Yeah. It's a harder question. That's maybe
Well, that's the interesting question.
Yeah.
What is preventing you from finding the one, or from connecting with the one? Or if you have a 30% success rate, why are you rejecting those 30%?
Because as all men, I'm visually attracted to girls, and and right now I'm actually at this point where I kind of get disappointed with the other stuff outside the looks. So therefore, if I'm able to get a phone number from the girl who's appealing to me in terms of how she looks, it doesn't transform into, me liking her intellectually and emotionally and stuff like that.
Therefore, your strategy needs an adjustment.
Oh, that was coaching, Kim. You just coached me, right? Probably I don't need to go to bars and clubs to meet girls. Maybe I need to go
Maybe you need a different approach.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe.
No, I didn't, we weren't supposed to be talking about dating, but we got there, right?
Yeah. But let's shift gears.
Kim,
one of the signature questions I have on my podcast is called Be Yourself. And I'm always mesmerized by people who seemingly found what they really truly love in life. Simon Sinek says that when you use the word love, it actually gives so much meaning. And I think that you love your job. Is it safe to say?
I love my job. I love my clients. I love what I do.
Amazing. So you're a happy person. And I always interested to know, was there ever a friction, like a moment in your life, a transformational moment? Because you use transformational in your pitch. Was there a transformational moment in your life when you had to change something? And maybe it was a really brave decision on your part, something that changed this whole trajectory of your life, so you find what you really love doing in life, because you weren't coach all your life.
I mean, okay, so for me, I got married very, very young in life. I got married at 20, and I was married for 15 years, and I had 2 children, and my marriage did not survive. And it was very, very, very hard because not only did our marriage not survive, we were working together. We were in business together.
Oh.
So my whole entire life, like, think about it. At 20 years old, how many people did you date before that? Not that many people. And so it was like my first real love, my first real experience in the dating world. And suddenly, at 35 years old, I found myself a single mom. And because there was so much tension at work, I ended up selling my side of the business.
Wow.
And so like my life became completely changed. And I had to make sense of it, and I had to do something with it. I had to, work again. I had to handle being a mom with 2 kids. I had to, figure out dating because I never really dated before. And suddenly, like, now I'm back out there, online apps and all this crazy stuff, right? So it was a whole entirely new world. And one of the things that I did at the time, because I felt very bad that my marriage fell apart and that there was so much tension with my ex-husband and all that stuff. It's hard. Divorce isn't easy. So I used to journal every single day. And the reason I journaled was because I just wanted to be able to handle it with some degree of grace. And honestly, I didn't always succeed, right? Some days I just, the ugly stuff comes out of you. But my journal helped me recalibrate and help me recover faster and help me point me in the right direction and help me manage my emotions. And it was just like, I was a journaler ever since I was a kid, but you kind of go through waves where you journal and then you don't. And now I was journaling all the time because I desperately needed to release all of the intensity of my emotions.
Wow.
And so that was the negative experience. And after I sold my part of the business, I was recruited by a coaching company here in Toronto, like within a few weeks. And
interesting. So you decided to become a coach.
No, I didn't become a coach. They hired me as their VP of sales, of marketing, VP of marketing.
Okay.
So I went and I worked there for maybe 8 months. And the reason that I only lasted for 8 months is because I'm an entrepreneur. It's very hard for an entrepreneur to work for others.
Tell me about it.
But also because I got a chance to observe how they coach, and I felt like they were doing it wrong. Like I felt like, you know what? They're missing very important features here of that are critical to coaching. And so I said, I think I could do a better job. And, we agreed to part ways, which was fine. And I started my own business. And from the very, very beginning, I said, wouldn't it be interesting if I could read their journals? So you understand what I mean by taking an adversity and using it to your benefit.
Yeah, and that's all drawn from your own experience.
It's drawn from my own experience. Exactly. So now here I am. It's 20 years later. And journaling is absolutely like the centerpiece of everything we do. We teach it to others. We have a software that we license out, and it's just the component, the critical component that allows us to really get to know our clients at the level and depth that we do. So that was the moment. That was the experience. It was a really tough time. It was a long time ago, but and I'm remarried, and I married someone with 3 kids. And so we raised 5 children together. And all these years later, like, life is completely different than it was then.
Wow. But you're in a great place now. I'm happy to hear that. Right?
I'm in a good place.
Awesome. Yeah. Executive coaching for leaders with human challenges.
Yes.
You emphasize human. It seems like you don't want robotic leaders, who don't give credit to the human component. It doesn't.
I think that all leaders have human challenges, right? Yeah. All leaders have human challenges.
But do you often get customers who have problems expressing their vulnerability and their emotions? These tough guys. No?
You know what? The truth is no. Like, I don't, because
They find you. You see, this is the
not only
filter
they
that you
find me, not only they find me, that's not it, but I ask questions that allow people to get there with me. Does that make sense? So what I want to know is, I want to understand what happened. When you tell me what happened, there's no emotion involved. But when you tell me what happened, I'm able to find the emotion in what happened. So the process, even for people who have a hard time expressing their emotions, because of the system, the process, the approach I use enables people to get there with me fairly easily. It's not a shock to the system.
Is it enough to be vulnerable with one coach only to fully change your life? Isn't this necessary to learn how to be vulnerable all across the board? Because I read this interesting article on Medium recently that, the Brené Brown, her famous speech on vulnerability at TED, I think it's the second most watched. And this article was covering the topic of fake vulnerability, that it's a thing now. Like, if we'll want people to perceive us as vulnerable, but in fact, we actually give away stuff that we're all pretty much secure, feel okay revealing. So my question is, and it's really interesting for me too, like, how often do we need to show that we don't know something, we are wrong, admit it? Or is it enough to have one therapist, one coach, who you're vulnerable with, and not be vulnerable all across the board?
I don't think it's about, I don't think your life is about, finding that person, that coach, that therapist to be vulnerable with, and that's what it's about. You have
friends
that supports your life, right? Like, that's a support to your life, but that's not your life. Your coach isn't your life. Your therapist isn't your life. These two people are aside from your life, right? They don't live in your home. they're not your neighbors. They don't work with you. They're not in your life. So it's not about, the idea isn't about finding one person you can be vulnerable with. It's about living your life in a way where you're comfortable in your skin, where you're, as you say, be yourself, where you are able to be yourself, where you are in relationships where you feel good about being yourself, and where you're thriving. And so if that's the case, great. If not, we need to look at what's preventing you from living your ideal life and being yourself and living in a way where you're thriving. And sometimes, not always, sometimes what that means is maybe you're putting up walls and you're not letting people in. And maybe it would benefit you from letting people in. But maybe there are other things getting in the way. It could be, that people are very concerned with how other people see them. It could be that, right? It could be that they're very, very performance oriented. And so, they become aggressive even when their performance is at risk. Maybe they're very competitive. We don't know. We don't know what could be getting in the way of their ability to live the life they want to live. And so vulnerability may play a small role for some people.
Yeah. Maybe this is coming from my personal experience, and I kind of extended it to all the people. Not all the people are okay, saying sorry, apologizing. I just that I wanted this to become something that I'm preaching, and wanted at some point, all throughout 2023, I was trying to become a coach myself. Yes. And this was I was really into Simon Sinek and all the stuff that he's talking. He's a really, really emotional fella. And I mean, I was trying to teach people that it's okay to say these vulnerable things. But in fact, maybe people are just different. And what's good for me, not good for you.
But not only that, sometimes it's appropriate. It's not always appropriate. Sometimes it's, healing and soothing and creates connection, but not always, right? So it's a bit out of context is what I'm trying to say. That's not the answer to every problem in life, right? So what we need to do is understand the person we're coaching and understand how their beliefs influence what they do and what they don't do and the outcomes they get. And so the answer isn't always you need to be more vulnerable. It's not always that. That's not always the problem. And keep in mind, we're always coaching the person, not the problem itself. And so therefore, my objection in the world is that many coaches try to coach a person without knowing them well. They make assumptions. They say, oh, well, here's the problem. Then
they
therefore
put them
you need
in
to
some group of people, like this person is that or this. They label the people, right?
Right. They label the person. Exactly. They put them in a box. They say, oh, I see the signals. You must be like this. Right. And so, but that's not really what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is every person has a life journey. And in that journey, they have experiences, they have influences, they have positive moments, they have negative moments. And what we need to do is learn about their story and how their story influences who they are now.
Are you a patient person? Would you call yourself patient?
Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I am. It depends on the situation.
How do you become a better listener? And how do you learn how to ask great questions? This is something that's really relevant for me doing podcasts as well.
How do you become a better listener?
And how do you ask great questions? Yeah.
I think being a listener is about seeking to understand instead of seeking to be understood.
Seeking to understand. Okay.
Okay, so seeking to understand. So when I try to understand you, I spend the time asking questions that help me understand you.
Oh.
Right? So they go hand in hand. When you're seeking to understand, you're engaged and you're interested and you're trying to capture a person.
Yeah. So questions, open-ended questions, like tell me more, just dig deeper and deeper.
Not always tell me more. It could be like, okay, so I'll come back to you in your dating life, right?
Oh my God. Okay.
Right? So I'm interested in that. You brought it up. I'm interested in that. Okay. I'm interested in so how do you approach women? What's your approach? Do you have an opening line? Do you have a way? Do you have a system? So I'm just curious. And that's not necessarily an open-ended question. It's a very specific question.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that question is to understand how you operate.
Do you want me to respond?
If you like, I would be happy for you to respond.
You see, this is the topic that's been evergreen in my life. I've always wanted to be unique in everything. In how I study, and how I run business, and how I close deals, and dating life as well. I hate when people see me as others. So let's put this out of the way. And
that's not out of the way. That's really, really super important, right?
Yeah.
You just told me a pattern of yours.
Yeah.
Right? You just shared that with me.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it. You just shared it with me.
I know this about myself. This is probably a good thing. So I kind of know.
So this is interesting for us to keep track of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue.
That's why I've always started doing something that was going against the grain, seemed impossible, started a business with Americans from Ukraine, started then doing business with China. So all these things odds were stacked against me. I love this thing, and with ladies, I hate it when some guy sends me the video with, hey, check out this guy. He teaches you how to open up the conversation with a lady. I'm always, when someone sends me a video like that, I'm like, yuck. I'm disgusted by that because it kind of challenges my uniqueness. I don't even watch this thing. And it even offends me that they think that I need something like that. freaking interesting. This is the first time I articulated this, really, ever in any languages. So I hate even the bare thought that I should learn from someone how to do something. Maybe there's a problem that with my self-confidence, but anyhow, I feel like I know better. And with ladies, I always try to improvise. Always. Never have the same line. But I really love to meet the eyes and smile and see how she responds. And this is probably my secret. You gotta have a really relaxed body language. And sometimes not just she walks and I walk a level up with her, and I just turn my head and I'm looking at her. And I see the reaction, and I go from there. Maybe that's why the so-called conversion rate is pretty high, because I always first see her reaction, her eyes. Yeah.
What's interesting to me is you're calling it a conversion rate.
Oh my God!
Right? It's a conversion rate. So you perceive. Yeah, so
we gotta
it's
call
like
it something, right?
Well, what you want to call it is, I want to find the person I want to spend my life with.
Yeah.
That's what you want to call it. That's very different from a conversion rate.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
I'm getting there. To actually formulating this like this. That I wanna. But this was the example of how you ask great questions.
No,
we're not going to dig any deeper.
It's good. It's great, right? So I learned something about you that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, because I'm interested, and I'm also asking for very specific feedback. I'm not just skimming over it. I'm saying, okay, so like, if you have an approach, what's your approach? And for those of you who are listening, like, wasn't that interesting? I thought it was interesting, right? And so the more I get the interesting pieces, I'm also able to connect dots. And I'm also able to pick up patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, patterns in terms of the beliefs you have.
Yeah.
Right. So the other thing that I would do with you is, if your struggle is to find that person, I would also explore, tell me about the relationships you've had, tell me about the people you've dated, tell me about what went right, what went wrong. And so now I'm getting granular.
Your relationship with mom.
But I'm getting granular. Why am I getting granular? Because the more examples you give me, the more I'm able to get a bigger picture. And it seems backwards, right? It seems like I'm getting into the weeds, but the weeds allow me to see the big picture.
Yeah. I'm really excited talking to you. I feel like we've known each other for some time, and that's the feeling that I won't trade for anything. One of the reasons I love speakers on the stage is that my most beloved speakers, or podcasters, they all give me the feeling that I've known them for years. How do you do that? Any secrets?
I honestly, I think when you have this yourself, mm-hmm. you bring your sparkle to the experience, right? You bring your interest, you bring your I don't know, your essence, you bring your personality to it. And so when I'm in a conversation with someone like you, it's very, very easy for me to just have a good time. And what you're noticing is, like, yeah, okay, we're on a podcast. We're supposed to be talking so that the public hears us. But for me, I'm just talking to you, right? Yeah. And I'm just having a good time right here, right now with you. And I want to learn more. And one of the things that I'm also interested in, you said so before, you wanted to be a coach. And to me, the most important thing about being a coach is actually experiencing incredible coaching.
Oh, wow. So It's like you can't become a writer before you read thousands of books? Pattern?
I don't know about thousands, but it's hard to be a great writer if you don't know what a great book looks like or sounds like, right? It's like you can't be a great doctor if you've never seen a great doctor perform surgery, right? You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it feels like. You don't know, how to go about it. So many, many people come to me and say, will you teach me how to coach? And I say to them, this first and most important step about becoming a great coach is experiencing great coaching. And so for you, my question is, have you ever experienced phenomenal coaching?
I don't know. I haven't experienced great marketing. That's what I can say for sure, because I wasn't able to market myself. Maybe I was a like decent enough coach, but I wasn't able to get a lot of clients. That's why I closed the this venture. But it's interesting. It's interesting. You gotta first spend tons of money on great coaches before you become a great coach yourself.
You don't have to spend tons of money, but you have to have a great experience so that you know like how to do it. How how does it feel to the client, and you have that experience for yourself, right?
So all your coaches that work under your brand.
Yeah.
How did you hire them?
So every single one of them was a client. So they went through coaching. They said, wow, this is an unbelievable experience. How do I learn how to coach? So we created a certification process to teach these people specifically our approach, our methodology, our philosophy for coaching. And so they went through the process. It took a long time. It takes about 1.5 years for someone to get certified because there are many steps in the process. And it concludes with a 3-hour written exam. It's a serious process.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can actually formalize, because I don't want to sound like I don't believe the science of coaching. I do believe it, but for me, it's more like an art. Am I wrong thinking that coaching is more like an art than a science?
I think it's a bit of both. Some people have stronger coaching instincts. They're just naturally better. But I do believe that coaching skills need to be backed up with a system, an approach, a methodology, a philosophy, right? And so once you have that, it becomes easier to have better instincts because then you know what you're looking for. But some people are better than others. Like, yes, some people are naturally better than others. Yes, absolutely.
I'm thinking that your coaches are actually naturally inclined to do that. That's why they make great coaches, because
they're
they went
naturally
through this.
Inclined, yes, but also they are trained very well. Rigorous training.
Tell me about the industry as a whole. Is it still booming? Because I was under the impression that people are getting a bit annoyed with so many coaches. Do you get a sense of this?
So I'll tell you, yes, it's still a booming industry. And yes, people are getting annoyed. The reason they're getting annoyed is because many coaches are not successful themselves and they're not very effective, to be completely honest. So, there are
so many coaches who are not successful. This is interesting.
They're not successful, right? They're not successful as coaches and they're not successful in their personal lives, right? They're just like struggling and then they want to go coach people. And so it's a problem. And I really do believe that
Kim, maybe that was me. Maybe that was me, actually, to be completely frank. That was me. You just described me.
Tell me more. What are you saying?
I wasn't successful. I didn't have any relationship, and I tried to coach some other people. But that's just a short segue. Yeah, please, continue.
And what that means is that you really need your action is to find an amazing coach, and I can help you with that. But that's your Anyway, besides that,
but you were saying that the part of the reason is that they're not successful themselves.
What I'm saying is that there are a lot of coaches who are trained very poorly. And when they finally get to start coaching people, they're very, very frightened. And they have a lot of anxiety and they are not comfortable with their own businesses and they're not comfortable selling coaching. They're not comfortable asking for a fair coaching rate. They're not comfortable challenging a client. They're not comfortable asking difficult questions. They're just not comfortable. They're very, very scared. And so what happens is they deliver coaching that is subpar. And so I believe that the whole industry is impacted with poor coaches, poor coaching. So it's not a surprise that it's an industry that's seen in a very poor light.
I don't even know what phenomenal coaching is. to be completely frank. I have a therapist, my psychologist, who we started working like a few months ago. And I think he's not going to watch this because he doesn't speak English, but I don't know if he's doing such a great job. I even asked him if we can have 2 sessions per month instead of 4. And he said, nah, that wouldn't be like great idea. He wants it every week, but I don't feel like I need him every week. So that's the sign that
why are you working with him? Boy, we have a lot to talk about.
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
We have a lot to talk about. We don't have to talk about it here, but I'm happy to talk to you about it separately. We can talk about it separately.
Okay, Kim, let's wrap this up.
Yes.
What would be your last message to Ukrainians? Let's start with Ukrainians and people who experience struggles in their life.
Well, for Ukrainians, you're definitely dealing with a great deal of adversity right now. That's for sure. Life is stressful. Life is a struggle. And the question you need to ask yourselves is, how do I turn this into an advantage somehow? How do I build resilience from this experience? And on top of that, I think that journaling is a very, very powerful way to examine how you think and how your thinking is impacting you. Sometimes people ask me, like, what should I journal about? And so for anybody who's listening, on our website, we have journaling prompts that you can use just to get your mind thinking. And so you can go to frameofmindcoaching.com and pick those up. They're free. They don't cost anything, but that will get you starting to think about where you are, what you want to do in your life, what you want to achieve, how to get there, and how perhaps sometimes your thinking is getting in the way of your ability to have the life you want. So that's my message for today.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're looking for a quality video production provider? Look no further. My name is Sergey and I own Beverly Production. We are a video production agency from Ukraine. We help entrepreneurs to create credible online, offline podcasts and clips that drive interest, to promote your podcast. As a podcaster myself, I early realized that there are not that many podcasts that put an emphasis on quality and creativity, just making your videos look really, really cool. That's why we mix our videos up with different visual aids, sound effects, flashy transitions. We do dynamic switching and other cool creative things that just set apart your podcast from your competition. You can check our samples on the website, and we also help people to post the videos. So we take over YouTube management, and we can also run TikTok and LinkedIn for you. So if you're interested in something of this kind, don't hesitate to book a call with me. The contacts are available on the website. Thanks a lot.